There was once a town that existed on official maps. It had a name. It had families. It had electricity, a post office, even a school. And then, one day, it was gone. Not destroyed. Not abandoned slowly. Just erased. This is the Dark Files. In the northern part of the country, far from major highways, there once stood a small rural town. It wasn't famous. It wasn't wealthy. It was the kind of place most people only drove through. Population: 312. One grocery store. One gas station. One church. Quiet. Predictable. Ordinary. According to public records, everything was normal until late October. That's when nearby towns started noticing something strange. Deliveries weren't arriving. Phone calls weren't being answered. Mail began returning unopened. At first, it was dismissed as a technical issue. Maybe a storm knocked out communication lines. Maybe a power failure. But the weather had been clear. 3 days passed. Then a county officer was sent to check on the town. What he found didn't make sense. Cars were parked in driveways. Front doors were unlocked. Lights were still on in some homes. But there were no people. Not a single one. Inside the houses, daily life appeared frozen. Coffee cups still sitting on tables. Televisions left on static screens. Laundry half folded. In one home, dinner plates were set as if a family had just stepped away. There was no sign of panic. No broken windows. No overturned furniture. It was as if everyone had walked outside at the same time and never returned. Authorities searched the surrounding woods for miles. Nothing. No footprints leading away in groups.
No abandonat vehicles o niguais.
No mass movement recorded. Security cameras from a nearby gas station showed no unusual traffic leaving town that night. It was as if 312 people had simply stopped existing. And then investigators discovered something else. The town's official records, digital files stored in state systems, had begun disappearing. Property ownership logs corrupted. Birth certificates inaccessible. Census data partially erased. At first, it was blamed on system errors. But backups were missing too. Slowly, the town's presence began fading from government databases. Almost like someone was removing it. One detail stood out above everything else. A 17-second phone call. It was placed from inside the town at 2:13 a.m. on the night before everything went silent. The call connected briefly to emergency dispatch. There was no voice at first. Only wind. Then faint static. Then a whisper. The operator replayed the recording dozens of times. Enhanced the audio. What they heard was unclear, but most agreed on one thing. The voice said, "They're standing in the road." The dispatcher asked for clarification. No response. Then the line cut. Investigators checked highway cameras. There were no visible vehicles entering or leaving town around that time. But one frame of footage showed something unsettling. At the far edge of the camera's range, barely visible, were shapes. Not clear figures. Just dark vertical forms across the road. Too tall to be animals. Too still to be people moving normally. The footage glitched seconds later. When it returned, the road was empty. Weeks passed. The town was declared abandoned. Officials claimed a coordinated relocation. They never explained how or why. Media coverage was brief. And then something stranger happened. Online map services stopped displaying the town's name. It wasn't labeled anymore. Zooming in showed empty land. Satellite images were blurred at certain angles. Local historians who tried accessing older records found pages missing from archives. New editions of state maps no longer listed it, as if it had never been built. Only older printed maps still showed the town's name. And even those copies became difficult to find. One journalist who investigated deeply claimed he drove to the location months later. He said the buildings were still there, but the road leading into town felt longer, quieter, and when he entered, he reported something chilling. All the doors were closed now, every light off, no signs of disturbance, just dust gathering naturally. He stayed for 20 minutes, and during that time he said something felt wrong. Not watched, not followed. just measured, like something was aware he didn't belong. He left before sunset. Later that evening, he checked his camera footage. The entire memory card was corrupted, except for one photo, a photo taken at the entrance sign. In the background, barely visible in the trees, were several tall shapes, standing still, facing the road. Today, officially, the town never existed. Its population number does not appear in records. Its name does not appear in new atlases. But older residents from nearby counties still remember it. They remember school sports games there. They remember shopping at its grocery store. They remember driving through it at night. And some say, when passing the old highway, if you look carefully toward the tree line, you can see rooftops, not abandoned, not destroyed, just quiet, waiting. No one has reported entering since. And perhaps that's the most unsettling part. Because sometimes disappearance isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about removal. And sometimes the road isn't empty. It's occupied, just not by what you expect. If this town was erased once, what makes you certain it can't happen again?